Small. Small. Lower. Yes, a hearty welcome to another edition of the program Familiarise with the Law, coming to you from Star Television, where we broadcast from Media One Center 3 Mama Street, Bookfields in Freetown. In today's edition of the program, I have the privilege to have as my guest Honorable Sualiho M Koroma. He is a chairman, Water Resource, House of Parliament. Honorable, good day and welcome to this program.
Good day. Good afternoon.
Also in the studio is Charlie Christensen, working for Water. Charlie, good day and welcome to this program.
Good evening. Thank you.
Professor Njai is a scientist and a lecturer at the University of Madison, United States of America, and also a research fellow at the College of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences. Professor, good day and welcome to this program.
Thank you.
Today we're going to take our time off to look at the importance of water. Perhaps we'll start from a broader perspective and we'll attempt to narrow the discussion back home. A couple of days ago, we saw where the House of Parliament debated and ratified an additional loan agreement between the Republic of Sierra Leone and the OPEC Fund for International Development on the expansion of water and sanitation services. And perhaps for the benefits of our insights, I will bring the Honorable to just take us through how those efforts were meted out in the first place.
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say it's about the 3 Tons Water Program. I think sometimes in 2008, this project was initiated by the government of Sierra Leone, who requested support from African Development Bank Group to help support the water sector, particularly the rural cities. That's for Bo, Kenema, and Makini. They approve some sum of $61 million to do area water facilities, which included some part of sanitation. Because if you look at this project, it also comprises of providing sanitation, public sanitation, particularly to public institutions like markets, schools, and even some military barracks and police barracks all over the country. So I think this project was to cover 183 kilometers then when the research was done. But due to the enlargement of the cities, you can see for yourself when you get to Bo, Kenema, and Makini, the cities have grown over 5 years or 10 years because it's about 10 years ago now. So I think we have to extend the pipe network of this facility. So that was why this government also seek additional funding from OPEC that they try to improve on the network and enlarge the network. That's why some other resources came in so that they could do that exactly. And the one they are doing now is going to cover something like 300 kilometers for the 3 cities.
Honorable, we're looking at the effort of the government against the backdrop of climate change. Professor will come to talk about it, where we've witnessed a lot of changes over the years as a result of climate change. The rapid growth in urban cities, urbanization is taking its toll on our society. Against these two aspects, urbanization, the expansion of cities, and also climate change, what is the government actually doing to meet up with the potential challenges?
Actually, as a parliament, I want to limit myself. Sometimes I will tell you exactly. I will not talk on behalf of parliament because I'm not a government spokesperson, but I will talk about what I know and what has been happening. As a parliament, what we did over the years, for the past couple of years, when I've been the chairman of the Committee on Water Resources, we've done a lot of research work. We've done a lot of oversight activities, like for Freetown. I want to specifically take Freetown. What we did was to go around the catchment area. You yourself have said in your opening statement that the catchment areas have gone dry. We have a lot of streams running into Freetown. Even sometimes the osprey is being disturbed because of human activities. We've done a number of reports. We are a committee that done maybe the highest number of reports this year, led in the Well of Parliament, debated in the Well of Parliament. As a committee, as a person who chaired the Committee on Water Resources, I think we have done like 6 reports. Even when there was a crisis last year in Freetown, we did a quick research on that We called the donor community, we called the ministries, department, and agency. They came and we did a report. We presented
the emergency of
water supply. And quickly the government responded. Thank God for that. But the overall objective of whatever we are doing is for us to ensure that the catchment areas are protected. This is where the bottleneck is. Because you are talking about urbanization. People have moved into the urban cities, particularly Freetown. So you can find out that everybody wants to build a house, you don't want to rent any house, there is no proper planning, government is not planning, the council is not planning, nobody's planning as who should be where and when. So everybody's just building, so there is no proper building organization, there's no proper building permit. Ministry of Lands is blaming Ministry of Works, giving the building permit. Ministry of Works is blaming Ministry of Lands. You go to EPA is blaming Ministry of Lands, everybody's blaming. It's just a blame game. So we brought everybody under the same roof in committee number 1. We said, how are we going about this issue? Because there will be time. I've said it over and again. In this country, if we don't take our time, particularly for Freetown, there will be time, even if we have all the $1 billion, there will not be any water available for us. And when that happens, then there's a big emergency. So we've done all of that, and I think we sent that report to Parliament. And in fact, the government, the president, in his wisdom, he set up a catchment area committee team comprising of people from SPU, from his office, parliaments, ministries, department, and agencies. We did a very good report also. We did the recommendations. Even in the world of Parliament, we have ratified resolutions that we must ensure that these catchment areas are demolished. But up to now, we have not seen too much willingness on the part of government to take action. I think that is what we are.
Honorable, before I come to Professor Njai, we're looking at the aspect where so many opinions has been expressed on the fear that the next Third World War could be fought along inadequate water supply, not only in Africa, for the entire world itself. I may sound a little bit rhetoric. Why is there the need for the provision of adequate water supply? If you see a gentleman being sandwiched here in the studio, Charlie Christensen, who took a walk from Denmark, trying to raise funds for a small community in Tanzania for the provision of water, it speaks volume of the fact that there is urgent need for, urgent need for redress when it comes to adequate water supply.
See, sometimes in my debates on the radios, on TVs, in Parliament, sometimes I just don't talk about supply of water, the provision of water. I talk about sustainability.
Okay.
You see, what has been happening in Sierra Leone over the years, there is this ad hoc arrangement about the provision of water. There's no proper arrangement. So as a matter of fact, you go out there, you see a lot of ad hoc arrangements. Even the other time I was taking the ministry to tax, that we really have to stop this ad hoc arrangements. You have NGOs coming just to do wells, boreholes, hand-dug wells, ad hoc arrangements. You don't know what exactly the person is doing. You don't know what's the quality of water. I brought up some scenario sometimes ago when I was working for the mining sector. I was working for London Mining. We did a number of wells in the Marapa communities, Marapa Chiefdom. But remember, we are doing these wells. We are not the professionals. We did not work in internal of the rules and regulations of the ministry. What happened? We are giving poison to people other than supporting them with water supply. Because every water hand-dug well we dug at that time, when it was tested, afterwards, after some time, like after 6 months, after maybe 1 year, it had high level of iron ore content in that water, which were consumed by people. So these are all ad hoc arrangements. A lot of NGOs are doing water activities. A number of private people are doing hand-dug wells. A number of private people are doing boreholes. Who are in control of these activities? Some decisions are about providing the water. It's about the quality of water. It's about the sustainability of what you are providing for the public, for the population of your country. So I think we really need to think about it very seriously and see how best we can really streamline the supply of sustainable water supply to our people. I've said it a number of times that if you supply clean water for consumption, for domestic use to your people, definitely you have the opportunity of reducing the health budget. You have a clear opportunity. Because remember, when you visit our hospitals in this country, Most of the related illness you see in this country, it is even proven by research from Ministry of Health that 70 to 80% of the related illness are water-caused diseases. So why not try to get to that point and ensure that we get the right water for the people to drink, so that we can reduce on the health budget, so that we can encourage tourism, so that we can encourage farming, we can encourage agriculture, we can encourage construction, we can encourage all of these things. Because Sierra Leone, I can say Sierra Leone is a waterlogged country. But why is it that our people still suffer? Our kids still go out at 4 a.m. in the morning, sometimes even 1 a.m. in the morning in search of water, school-going children. Sometimes they are there, they don't go to school, they are still there until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or even up to 9 o'clock.
And it even heightens the risk of them getting...
Exactly. So these are the problems. Okay. It is because we have not prioritized the provision of water. We have water in this country.
Professor, this is where I will bring you in. Honorable made mention of a very serious link here. Waterborne disease, including the climate change, the effects upon it has on our society, the provision of water.
Right. And I'm just going to reiterate his point because he made some very good points. The key aspect of water are two things. Quantity is one thing, quality is another thing. And so we have to look at water as a resource, and in both those angles. And when you look at waterborne ailments in Sierra Leone, a good number of our things are linked to water. So you think of malaria, you think of typhoid, you think to cholera, you think to some of the toxins, chemicals, and all this stuff. And the point he was talking about, people constructing wells without doing the proper environmental impact assessment or the assessment of water quality or soil analysis are not being done. This is actually very important in terms of regulating who is doing what and how things can be, put together in such a way there is an impact. But one of the big things we always have to think about is Freetown, for instance, as a city, I would say max 250,000 people. Think of it, it's skyrocketed, the number of people living in the city. Freetown geographically is restricted as a city. It's bound on one side by an ocean, the other side by mountains. And, ideally, you don't really want to cut down that, the mountain, the forest, the watersheds we have, because that's, what really maintains everything else, like around Goma and all that. So it's a challenge right now as a country, and because one, we are almost finishing everything that remains of, I remember when I was in Frobe College, we had the botanical gardens, and it spread all the way down, and you could actually go down there. There was really a very nice stream that runs down. It was very cool. Now it's almost inhabited. The campus, up to the campus is all inhabited. And so it's really important when we think of what is the essence of the forest as a shock absorber or a suction for climate change, and they mitigate, the effect of fossil fuels and stuff, but also as checks and balances for water coming downhill. So if you don't have those forests and those things, forget about just even having drinking water or whatever, but you're thinking of just the disasters that we are going to be thinking of that are going to be related to water also, because you are going to have a high amount of runoff, you're going to have issues of flooding, which we've been experiencing in Freetown. And so the challenges for water is enormous. And he, the Mr. Honorable rightly said, if you think of children, I've been in Freetown now for like a month, and I go around and people, one morning there was a crisis for water in my area, and the guy was saying in Creole, before they give you light, let them give you water. Yeah. It sums it all up, because water is such an important thing, because if you think of it, when we even talk about IPCs, if you don't have clean water,
infection prevention
control, how do you do proper IPCs? How do you make sure the children get good education when they are going to drink contaminated water or water that is not so good for their health? And or if children have to be in school, Like I've experienced in some places where they don't have a drinking water, they have to maybe walk back to the house or maybe stay in school all day without drinking. So you think of also the impact on quality of education and things by having all those issues. So there is so many more caveats to water, that is huge, and we need to pay attention. Sierra Leone has some of the highest precipitations in West Africa, and so it's almost like you live in the Nile and you are drinking spittle. So one must not live in the
but we may come into terms that it's a global problem, but it's becoming quite obvious as an African crisis. We now going to benefit from the experience sharing of Charlie Christensen, who traveled way back in Denmark, going to Tanzania, where he met a little community suffering as a result of water. What's the experience?
My experience with water in Africa?
Yes.
Well, I was living in this village in Tanzania, a quite remote village in the mountains. They used to get their water from the mountain Kilimanjaro, but this original source is 19 kilometers away from the actual village.
Really?
So it's a long way to go, and while I was there in the village, the water supply system broke down. They had been making emergency repairs many times, and eventually when you don't use original spare parts, it's just not fixable anymore.
Yes.
So they had this problem that they have to walk all the way 19 kilometers and back again with donkeys and buggies. And of course many people don't have the time to do that, so they drink contaminated water from more nearby mud holes, and they get sick from that. And when I saw that with my own eyes, I thought that this is crazy, that we live in a global world. I mean, everybody knows that there is people actually living like this, but before I saw it with my own eyes, it was not something that I really was feeling in the same way. And the problem is there is always more present crises. Now we have wars, we have natural disasters, crises where people are in urgent need of help from dying. And that's where most of the attention and most of the money coming from the developed world goes, naturally enough. But this water issue that we have many places, both in Africa but also in other third world countries, is something that, I mean, we can never stop war from continue happening. There will always be natural disasters and wars, but water, I think we can stop this crisis. I think we can raise the lower barrier for how human beings are living on this planet. And I think it's something we should do, because as both of you gentlemen have said, water is such an essential need. If you don't have water, you cannot think
And
of
this is
going
where you're
to
now
school,
working on a
you
project,
cannot.
Working for Water.
This is what I'm basically working on. The goal of the organization is to make clean water accessible for everybody on the planet. I'm not I will probably not be able to succeed with that myself in my lifetime, but it's a goal that I think is worth striving for.
Honorable, from that point, sir.
I think all of us are just trying to underscore the point that water is life and water is health. That's just a fact. But notwithstanding, I think as people, to me, successive government, I'm not really trying to shift blame on this government now. But I think in Africa, government in Africa have not tried to pay attention that my people deserve good drinking and sustainable water supply system. I think they just don't pay attention to that. I don't know for what reason. Because sometimes I say, when you actually step your feet out of this country, you go to the Western country, you look at the ambience of places, go to the bathroom, there's enough water and it's always clean. Why? Because there's enough water. If you come back home, you look at the ambience, sometimes even your own home is messed up because there's no water. When you go to public places, when you go out, when you are out of this country, public sanitation facilities are the best to use.
Mm-hmm.
When you come to our country, you don't want to even go around a public sanitation facility. This is happening because of they don't have water supply to these facilities. And we have failed to make it a priority. That's the problem. We have failed to make it a priority. Just like my colleague said, somebody was trying to say, somebody was crying to government, before you give me light, give me water. There's no substitute to water. You cannot use anything to clean your bathroom, to shower, except water. There's nothing. If you don't have the electricity from the main grid, you can have alternative of the solar. You have alternative of even the Chinese lights.
Mm-hmm.
You have alternative of even the kerosene lamp. But there's nothing you can do without water. You use water as human. We as human, we use water the first day we come to planet Earth. We use water the last day you depart from planet Earth. We use water to shower.
Honorable, the very thought of us as a nation looking at the aspects of where perhaps we can enhance our efforts in rain harvest, that in itself could, to a large extent, be able to solve.
You know,
Yes.
yes, I look at just like I said, just like my brother said, our level of participation in Africa is high. So one of the highest. You look at the water facility around Freetown, is huge. But what are we failed to do to see how we can get the resources we have, how we can put them into good use is a big problem. I admire the effort of UNDP a lot. They are now trying to do some. I saw on Alvat on the newspaper some time ago, maybe last month. I looked at their activities. They are trying to do a program on climate change resilience. They have a program, a whole department for that on UNDP. They train members of parliament who had training at Kuna Lodge, and they want us to go up country to engage these communities, at where they are going to do these their projects on boreholes, on these spring boxes, these water harvesting. They are doing it. They have the programs. This is what I think government should pay attention to, because if we have 6 months of heavy rainfall in this country, and after 6 months people do not sleep, they go to fetch water at 1 o'clock. I think no, that is not okay for us. It's not okay.
Yes.
We have to think about it critically.
Yes, Professor.
No, absolutely. I agree. I think there is enormous potential for us to do alternative means and technologies to kind of not just harvest water, but ways in which communities can attain sustainability. We
Apologies for a slight interruption.
Yeah.
The failure by the government over the years for the expansion of the Goma Dam.
yes.
You take proactive steps. The more you see the population density, you catch up with the prevailing circumstances.
Exactly.
This is a dam that has been there for quite a while. It has never been changed, no expansion.
Yes.
And we are thinking that Honorable here seated, we would have seen a situation where there would have been a kind of expansion, or the water that seemed to be wasted could be reversed, having a confluence that will come back and serve the purpose, other than it going as a wastage. That in itself is very much scary.
And I think and this is things that I hope, since the Honorable is here and the government, these are things that policymakers.
What is the risk if we embark on desalination of water?
I think there isn't much of an inherent risk to it, but I would say with the resources we have, the amount of that may be a tough challenge to do. I've seen it being done in like Alexandria, in Egypt, in Cairo. They do that desalination. They do that, but you put in a lot. It costs to it.
It's expensive.
Yeah, but I think we do have a lot of water. We do also have a lot of watersheds. We have a lot of. Think of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is one of the few countries in this sub-region that is traversed by 9 major rivers. We have like 9 major rivers when you look of the Scarces, all these big rivers. And we have even the Niger that supplies 6 countries also up to Nigeria. The source is from Kwenadugu here, from Bintimani. So the thing about water is we just have to be able to proactively find ways to optimize how we can provide more water for more communities, and also being able to educate people about water use, water conservation, and how to basically, capture water, like catchment, water catchment, and all those things. Like you go to countries like, Uganda, in Kenya now, in other countries, they're actually doing a lot of catchment and all these things. And actually, I have a colleague who might be coming here. Actually, they have an engineering firm. The whole family are engineers and architects, and they're all Ugandans. And the sister is the city engineer for Uganda, for Kampala. And they have a family company that works on green, sustainable things. So one of the things they do is actually creating dams that are all built in using soil, not concrete, but just soil. And they figured a way in which they can engineer those blocks, and they are as hard as any ferro cement. And they can actually then create these nice big dams in rural communities. So then when water comes, it catches the water, and then there is a way in which they can create this little catchment, and they have a little bit of another container. So the water comes in, takes one step, drops into this, and then they do like a little bit of filtration, then it goes into this big tank. And so the community gets a lot of water, and it's all sustainable, it's locally made materials, not concrete or anything else. And they make stoves, they make all sorts of things, they make buildings, of course. So you think of, we have to innovate as a society also. And oftentimes too, we focus on what we don't have. And sometimes we even stretch into government. Government should do this or not, government or what. I always say we should always think of what we have first. Start with what you have. And then when you start with what you have, you build from there. And I think we do have a lot of water. How do we capture that? And how do we capture river systems that are traversing all across Sierra Leone? I mean, you look at Cambia district, it's all water. Scarces, little scarces. You go, towns are submerged on top of water. And you go to, Kwenadrigo has all these sources. When I'm over there, I was born in Kwenadrigo, and and when I'm in Kabbalah, I'm telling people, there isn't a reason why we shouldn't have small micro power in every little community that doesn't have to have a main grid. Because all we can do is, there's all these rapids, all these little things that are happening, all dealing with water, but you can actually create a small turbine, which happens in many communities across like US and others. And when you create a small turbine, you can just power a small community. So at least, even if it's a school, the school will have a light. But it's all being like, we need to kind of like move to that thing of like really thinking sustainable.
Honorable, with this pretty good initiative being explained by Professor Njai here, you yourself have traveled a lot. You've seen examples of better things working for other countries. What is wrong with us replicating some of these things that could fit within our own context?
You see, we want to take you back to talking about sustainability. This is happening to us because we have not been able to localize sustainability. We have to localize sustainability. I went to Ghana. Was it in Ghana, or I think it was in Nairobi, the second city. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went there. We went to Taita. Mm-hmm. There's a village there. There's a way they harvest water for farming. They create a dam. They just go into the bush, dig a wide pit, use a local thing you are talking about. They make drains, and water comes into those dams. It is there for farming permanently, for gardening purposes. Local materials, locally, so you can sustain it. So you have to localize sustainability. Let me tell you what happened over the years. When you actually go into communities, UNICEF has done a lot of good job over the years, over 10, 15 years, a lot of pumps, provision, hand-dug wells, boreholes. But if you take a look at these communities today, you go there, maybe 60, 70% of all these facilities are functional. They're not working. Because the people in those communities do not have the capacity, they do not have the resources to maintain those facilities. Because the technology is not localized. And even if it's not localized, they don't have the resources, the funding to get the materials to fix those facilities. So that is why I said I admire a lot of things that UNDP is doing right now. What they are doing, they are trying to do solar-powered boreholes. Solar-powered. No generator, no extra cost. You fix your solar, it's always working. It will power the well, get the water from the well to the elevated tank, and it's supplied by gravity. Solar powered.
And you see, so, Charlie's part of his activity, part of his work he undertook from Denmark, coming to Sierra Leone, Tanzania, moving to Liberia. This is a 14th destination, I guess. 14th country that you visited. His aim is to raise money for just a little community in Tanzania. Have you got the resources?
No, I don't have the resources to build my system yet. But that's what I'm working on. But I think now talking about the communities, for example, here in Sierra Leone, where say people don't have the resources, I think actually many places the resources is there, but it's also a matter of willpower of the people to take up a shovel, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's not easy to be to live in Africa. I know many people don't have very good circumstances of improving their life, but I also see a lot of people who just sits with a cigarette in one hand and a beer in the other hand and say, "Why don't you make water system here?
Yeah.
We have to walk 1 kilometer to get water." But if you can carry a bottle of beer, you can also carry a shovel, then dig the hole, then we will see what we can do, you know. And I think that is a problem in Africa.
That is an important aspect.
Many places.
Very important
But another thing, I think it's very true that it's important to focus on what we got. And there is, I mean, for centuries, people have been living and have been trying to get water with primitive means. So it's just a matter of implementing some of those more maybe primitive means of getting water and get some entrepreneurs out to teach people how to do it. Then it can be done many places with a few means if the local people themselves want to do the work. But another problem is that the money issued to these small projects, I think here in Africa has a habit of just ending up in the wrong pockets.
Yeah.
And that is an issue that people, all countries in Africa is struggling with more or less. And that is something you need to solve. Because no matter how many money we send from the West, if they never trickle down, then you will never have any development. And it's something that stops people from the West from wanting to support. If you can find a cure for this disease that everybody seems to be transmitted with here and in other African countries, which is corruption, then you have the whole world ahead of you. You have a rich country, man.
Great. I mean, I'm going to link this question, but I will start with you. We're looking at an aspect where, if we tend to make the comparison, it may tend to be quite scary. We look at the efforts in the provincial areas. Why is it that the provincial area, when it comes to effective water delivery services, you've been the chairman, comparatively to Freetown, the Western, upcountry is doing extremely well, as opposed to what is currently happening. Just take a look. Go to the street of Freetown at about 4 to 5. You will see a graphic description of what we are trying to highlight here. Yes, I will start with you.
Yeah, I think size and capacity, population, can be a factor. And if you think of, there is nowhere else in this country with the population size of Freetown and the level of urbanization. And just as I said earlier, Freetown wasn't meant for this. It's this was a colonial city built for a small number of people, and then everybody now is in Freetown. There has to be a process.
On the flip side, someone will say, think out of the box and try to meet up with the current challenges.
Yeah, I will, and that's something I think the government has to kind of thinking about that, because That is, the urbanization is going at an exponential or even more than exponential rate in Freetown. It has to be matched by planning. Right now, people are just building everywhere, every place, without, sometimes there is not even a road. We're not thinking about how, where is going to be an hospital, where there is going to be a road,
or recreational facility.
Recreation facility, anything. There is just massive urbanization without a sense of planning. And the worst of it all is, like, let's say if there's even a woman or somebody who needs to get to the hospital from some of these communities, there's even no road how to get there. So, but that's a whole thing of itself. I think these are things that as a country we have to sit down with the right technocrats, the right set of people. The country is blessed. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of people who are from Sierra Leone, who are Sierra Leoneans, who are well trained. This country has to make use of its citizens, its technocrats. Some of us come here, we want to give the country a free service. I'm not getting paid. I don't pay for anything. I'm just giving now back for free.
The Honorable will take that into consideration.
But the thing is, the country, needs to kind of take advantage of its human resources, the best of its best, to then put people together and say, okay, well, how do we plan for this? What ideas can we have, the best ideas that can be used? Because the thing is, you could have somebody from outside coming, and a lot of these organizations who are taking a leading role in a lot of the things, they do come, they have the expatriate. But what I always tell people, and I tell my students out in America or other parts in the world, I say, the two things you cannot get is, I'm, someone like me, and I'm from Sierra Leone, and the habits and practices, and that's what the local Sierra Leoneans can offer, that sort of talent base, that sort of ability, and that's what is happening. If you go to East Africa, that's what is happening in India, in China, and others, because you really need to know, before you even come into intervening in any place, the habits and practices, the local culture, what they can accept and what they don't accept. So you may come with the biggest and brightest idea about how to intervene, how to solve this problem. It may not work. And that's the language we need to keep working in, and people have to be capacitated. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Honorable, on the scary comparison.
I just want to maybe talk about the equation of demand and supply. The supply of water to people is about demand and supply. In the villages or in the urban, in the rural settings, you don't have people sleeping in cars. And unfortunately, everybody that lives in anywhere, at any place, needs water for whatever purpose. For sanitation facility, for drinking, for washing, they need water. For every laundry. So you cannot look at those issues. You cannot keep them out of the equation. That is a simple theory, concept or equation, demand and supply. You have more people living here in the urban city. There are less people living in the rural city. But there are other things I can actually provide here. First of all, let me start with Guma. The Guma, we are talking about the dam. Why is it not that they have not extended the dam? For me, I can even say we don't need an extension of the dam.
Okay.
Trust me. What I can say here is for us to overhaul the network system in Freetown. Even if we change the dam and the network remains the same, we're still going to lose a lot of water. Goma generates and lose half of what they generate. Half of what they have, they lose everything in terms of wastages. It cannot get to the people because we have a very, very aged network system in this city. So we need to change it. And I can also say, I have done a lot of research work on water and sanitation facilities. When you go to the rural settings, you go to these villages, we are going there, we give them solar power borehole that is being treated. Unfortunately for us, we are catering for the well-being of the people. But these people spend only 8 to 9 hours in those villages and maybe 10 to 11 hours or 12 hours in the farms. When they get there, they are living on stream waters. So what campaign are we going to launch to ensure that we succeed in getting them in getting their head properly kept. Because we are doing all of this, getting them solar power borehole, making a spring box for them, doing a gravity water system for them, treated gravity water system for them, for their well-being. But they are not spending most of the time in their villages. They go to the farms to work. These facilities are there.
Are we still looking as a government on the aspect of where perhaps you...
So the other day, one thing I told the minister, we need a whole national dialogue here on the water issue. How are we going to resolve and solve this water issue? We need a whole national dialogue. We need stakeholders
could it be
to come on board.
inclusive of privatizing?
Honestly speaking, I agree with you. Government cannot do everything. We need to look at the private sector. You can agree with me that a lot of people are saying now they have better electricity supply than ever. It's because it's been almost a private partnership thing. So private people are coming to invest into the sector.
Okay.
So now you have sustainable electricity supply. I can boast of that even in my house. I live at Leicester. Sometimes I will have light throughout. When light goes off for maybe even 1 hour, we will have to complain. Because I'm almost getting used to permanent electricity supply. Because we are paying for it. And people say, people do not want to pay for water. I said because they are not sure of the sustainability. Because they are not sure. If I'm not sure that I can get water from you, a clean water, sustainable water, I will not pay for it. If I'm sure, I will pay for it. Because I'm sure I can get electricity supply, I buy light every week, maybe 150,000. I have to buy because I'm sure I will get electricity supply. So let's create the confidence into our people. And sometimes I have to support your argument also by saying the people themselves, they need to change. And also, I want to create another argument. That's why I say we need a conference, a dialogue. That also the West is also in the haste of changing the ability, the mentality of Africans. I've read a number of books. The Americans, when they had gender business, sexual abuse, it took them almost 5 decades to get over that. 5-6 decades. They launched a lot of campaigns. They spent money on it. But the West is also in haste to change the mentality of Africans, to change the behavior of Africans. It's a behavior thing. And they are also in haste.
To get to that point,
Trust me.
We've tried to ban cigarettes for the last 50 years in the US.
They cannot.
People are still smoking.
They're still smoking. Chain smokers.
So
it's not easy.
The imbalance.
So I think it's a way of finding the common ground for a serious discussion, how we are going to see that we change things. I'm not despising the fact that there's no corruption. I'm not despising the fact that people's ability or people's mentality about change is very dragging, is gradual. But we cannot also be in haste. We have to be patient and make sure we do the right formula for implementation. So it needs a lot of dialogue. It needs a lot of discussion. It needs a lot of discussion. We have to go out. It needs a lot of outreach, a lot of engagement. So I agree with you, but at the same time, I might say we cannot do these things.
Professor, do you believe that the selection of Honorable Sualiho M Koroma to be the chairman of Water Resources is no mistake?
Yeah, it's very good. We need people like him, who are doing policy, who understands the technical aspect, because that's one of the things we need to work on more in Sierra Leone, is having that link between policymakers and the technocrats.
Okay.
You see, you cannot have, in any country, in any society, you need that people to listen who understands and they can speak the language of the technocrat, because that's the base that is important. And then they would serve, and the policymakers are able to take it, translate it to communities. And that's how we have to work on a lot of things here. Going back, I just wanted to say one thing, that, Chris mentioned corruption here. Well, corruption happens in America. We call it lobby.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just different names. So it happens everywhere else in the world. But the one thing I wanted to say was, a lot of interventions that come about, they are not interventions that are driven out of the community.
Needs assessment.
Well, even when you do a needs assessment, you see, there is always this standard. There has always been this standard NGO sort of words and sort of evidence-based and lingo that bases all the needs assessment
Okay.
based on certain, M&E evaluation criteria. Okay, I was talking to a guy the other day at Oxfam, who works for Oxfam, and he was just telling me, these people give me this much money to do these things, and then they come with all these evaluations. But when I go to the community, I'm faced with all these other things to do that is not captured by the assessment. So what we need to do, how about we co-report? We contribute in the villages that has that plant inside. I forgot the name now. The plant that is an antimicrobial that actually kills. Our, that's what we drank when I was in Ghana. My mom
I know.
had the cold pot.
I know.
And it was clean.
Clean
water.
Clean water.
I mean, testimony, I'm still alive.
Yeah, sure.
I'm still here. So we have to think of what the people know and work on interventions based on their own knowledge.
Okay. Professor Njai, I want to thank you so much. But before I say bye to all of you, and thanks for having you as my studio guest, will you continue to work till you reach your targets by way of supporting the local people here in Tanzania? Quickly, we don't have much time.
Of course I will. This is a mission, a life mission for me.
Okay.
And I will not stop trying to raise this money before I succeed.
I would like to invite you.
Thank you.
I would like to invite you to Parliament.
Yeah.
Maybe to have some engagement with you.
That would be great.
Exactly. Maybe I can be of help to your project here.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because my aim is for Sierra Leoneans to get sustainable drinking water supply system everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, not just Freetown, but everywhere in Sierra Leone.
No, but
This could be the beginning of your glaring opportunity. Looking out for.
I'm also looking on a water project on the Banana Islands, actually.
Okay.
Village Ricket.
Okay, that's
they
good.
have a problem. But we can talk about that.
Definitely.
And I'll invite you to my launch of our well in Kabbalah.
Okay.
That's good.
On this note, I want to thank you for sparing your time being part of this program, Familiarise with the Law, especially to you, Honorable Sualiho.
Thank you very much.
Stole your time from your busy schedule
I
in
know.
Parliament to be part of this program. And to you, Charlie Christensen and Professor Njai, I must confess that we've
Help me all day.
yes, all of this is funny you've been here with us. As if you're a worker here at Starting.
I am already. I need to.
And this is how I bring the curtain in today's edition of this program, Familiarise with the Law, with my guest being Honorable Sualiho M Koroma, Chairman Water Resources in the House of Parliament, Charlie Christie, working for Water, and Professor Njai. I have been the presenter of this program. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
It repeats
Yes.
the come at 11.
Okay. Right. Yes. Yes, sir.
Nice meeting
Nice
you.
to meet you,
Yeah,
bro.
sure.
Yes,
Good
Mr.
to see you.
Kumar. Yes, I'll get your contact.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'm not my partner, yeah.
But I will just take it for myself to not get the time.